It's KD the one, and I'm here with another reaction video. I'm here with Cool Colas, 680 Black Tropes Hollywood used to disrespect black men today. I'm not gonna hold you. I'm looking through this as the eyes of a writer and not just a black man. Cause like I'm not gonna hold you to make something specific and to constantly see these tropes being used over and over is different from making something unique, eye catching, or something that has a certain feel. So I want to see what this brother's on. So please check out Cool Colas. I'm gonna have him in the link in the description. And please check out my music channel. I almost forgot about that. It's KD the one. Check it out. I got some music posted on YouTube, but let's get into it.
My platform is all about breaking down anti-black media tropes. So today I want to talk about misandrore, which was coined by me to mean black male hatred. And I will give you 6 black male hatred tropes that have negatively shaped the image of black men today. I'm your host, Cool Colas, and you are now tuning into a new video on my channel. So let's get into it. As we go into these tropes, I want you to take notice to the idea that a lot of these tropes will start to kind of bleed into each other and sound somewhat similar. But let's go ahead and get into the first black male hatred trope. The first black male hatred trope is what I call the black brute trope or the mandingo trope. The black brute image is about black men being presented as a monster or as a beast. This originated from the Jack Johnson fiasco, where this brother was a boxing prodigy and he was giving them white boys the business in the ring. And he was also banging all their white women too. So in order to stop him, they had to pass laws like the Mann Act, and then later try to create all these great white hope nonsense images in order to make him look bad. I say this in a lot of videos, but the white supremacists are a bunch of weasels, and they have to rely on technicalities and legal I'm white and I say so's and repeated imagery to smear the image of black people, in this case black men. So you have to look at this and you have to ask yourself, why did they make 10 billion different Rocky movies if not for wanting to create this great white hope image to offset the black brute image that they created of us? Even with the King Kong movie, that was made to subtly mock Jack Johnson and his love for white women, apparently. That's why they had this big black gorilla climbing the Empire State Building, which looks like a gigantic glizzy, which, by the way, Frances Cress Welsing discusses the psychology of this in her book, The ISIS Papers. And he's doing it while holding a white woman. Eventually, the dominant society took this black brute image that they made and they split it into 2 different ways that it can show up. It either shows up as an exploitation of black male athletes, or it shows up as a black man having a lustful and forceful desire of women. It's also known as the mandingo image. In the case of the
I'm not gonna lie, that's mad crazy. Like, I don't know if that, like that LeBron picture, if I go back, I don't know if this right here was supposed to be like this. I don't know if this was like to take inspiration of this, but that is fucking crazy. Like, to just see certain parallels like that, man. Brother might be on to something.
The black man was treated like he was a being who could only think with his Johnson. And he wanted to do nothing more than deflower women, especially white women in this case. One somewhat recent image of this was from the show Riverdale. They had a character on there and his name was Chuck. Now, Chuck was a character that was in the Archie comics, and he was originally presented as a good dude. But in this show, he actually was painted as a villain. And he was also shown in this show to be a school bully who also was stated to have been a potential date rapist. With that, he was specifically known for slut shaming, specifically of a white woman, a white Latina that was in the character Veronica. The second black male hatred trope is what I call the black male goofball trope. This is basically a silly negroid in media, nothing more, nothing less. With the black male goofball, I told you in a previous video that they have two prominent ways that they attempt to misrepresent black men in the media. They either exploit their anger or they make them weak in some way. One of the ways that they make black men look weak is by making them silly. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with being goofy and silly sometimes, and also being funny. As a matter of fact, it's very clear that black folks, especially foundational black Americans, are known to be a very playful, silly, and funny culture of people. Problem is, they constantly portray them as comic relief, and then they try to turn around and disrespect.
I think I know where this brother's coming from. Have y'all, if y'all were kids growing up in the early 2000s, y'all probably watched Danny Phantom on Nicktoons or some shit, and y'all see characters like Tucker. Y'all see characters like Cyborg on Teen Titans Go or regular Teen Titans. You see characters that are predominantly black and who gets played off as comic relief or mostly get plot points strictly on their jealousy or anger. It's sad to see stuff like that because us growing up as kids, we didn't notice, we didn't care. We just seen a character that looked like us and we was happy for that. I don't know. I could be stretching it, but this is probably what I think he talking
Them at
about.
the same time. They don't get to be silly and also be tactical or strong, let alone respected. They have to be the one who gets tossed around, who gets thrown around, who gets made to seem like they are a weak throwaway type of character. There's also a performative element to it as well too. Black men should be able to have fun, but they should not have to allow themselves to be circus clowns for white entertainment. Look at shows and movies such as Fast and the Furious, Star Wars, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and WWE. You have many types of black men who are silly clowns or are treated as if they are not to be taken seriously by the audience who views them. Again, need I remind you about M'Baku and how they treated his character in Black Panther Wakanda Forever? I mean, this dude was beat in a arm wrestling match by 90-pound soaking wet Shuri. And then he got tossed around by Namor like he was a big ass football. To be real, I really don't want to hear y'all bitching in the comments trying to explain this shit away like y'all did last time. Because some of y'all were talking about, well, to be fair, she was given the herb and Namor had the Telecon Vibranium. So that's why M'Baku was thrown around the way that he was.
I think what the brother's trying to get on is the fact that they will use black characters as throwaway characters when they want. Same thing when I talk about Cyborg, I seen a lot of times where in the main plot, especially in regular Teen Titans, he was more capable, more tactical, more smarter and prepared than Robin, Beast Boy, and all of them. But it wasn't until specific plots or specific points that you will see that he'll only be used to be a punching bag for a stronger threat to come out the way, or he will be there just to get mad because something happened inside the team. And it wasn't a everyday thing. Sometimes they like the writers were good, so they'll make sure certain shit is fluid, but certain writers they don't care. Certain writers they do just use these beloved black folks and characters that we all care about to just be throwaways in a movie or a show that don't even need to be made, sadly. Shit, look at Velma.
Trying to hear all that shit. You're missing the damn point. We are discussing the optics of how bad it looks, not why it happened. Let's go ahead and go to the third black male hatred trope. This trope is called the black martyr trope. This trope is all about the black man dying as a character in a TV show or movie. But really, it has two different sides to it. You have a black man who was killed off before the show starts. And then you have a black man who was used as a sacrificial lamb, aka what a lot of people know as why does the black guy always die in the movie trend? For the latter of the two, the purpose of doing this is to make it seem like we are expendable objects that are meant to be killed off in order to keep the story going and to also progress it. We aren't humanized. We are turned into plot devices for the continuation and success of white characters. I always talk about how movies train you to desire a happy ending in everything in life, not just in movies. That's why many of you solution sambos will whine and bitch and hoe at me about solutions when y'all really don't give a fuck about solutions like you're trying to make it seem. Y'all's asses don't want solutions. You
Okay, before he grips away from the conversation and makes me forget, I feel like when it comes to a person getting killed, if it has something to do strictly to the story, it doesn't matter if they have like a certain skin color. Let's say if it was a love interest, it would be called fridging. When someone gets seen, like a love interest would just get killed for the progression of the story. Or we could sit here and talk like the sacrificial lamb trope, to have someone just get written in just so they could get killed for the like story. It's not always black people, but I do understand where he's going, because there's a lot of people, like I said, that are written in these stories of skin color that just get killed in the most dumbest ways just because they didn't know what to do with them. They needed someone to be that scapegoat, so they used the one character that they thought no one would really bat an eye about. I hate it because a lot of these characters are black.
want happy endings and you want to stop hearing what you perceive to be negativity. The truth is, the dominant society taught you that. And through this image, they also taught you that the black man is generally not allowed to experience those happy endings. And as far as the first point goes, I told y'all before, the dominant society has a low-key admiration for us while also having hatred for us at the same time. And really, when we break this down, at its core, it's a mix of jealousy and envy. In other words, they know we have upstanding foundational black American men in our culture. And as a result, they are afraid that these images being shown in TV in large numbers can influence certain people, that being other young black kids and other black people who see these positive images regularly. This is the thing that y'all gotta understand. The media is their mechanism for misportraying us, exploiting us, and further indoctrinating us. They don't want the same mechanism that they're using to do all of these things to us to also inspire us by showing these positive images of us. They want us to be self-deprecating, self-loathing, and struggle with internalized racism. So their way of doing it is writing stories where the black father who is upstanding is already killed off before the show or movie even starts. Good examples of this are The Princess and the Frog, Ironheart, Raising Dion, and most recently, the show Wonder Man. The fourth black male hatred trope is called the angry black man. And in this case, we're going to talk about it from the context of drapetomania. The angry black man trope is exactly as it sounds. It's an angry black man, as simple as that. It sounds somewhat similar to the black brute trope. And in a way, it somewhat is, but there's also differences at the same time. First of all, you can be both an angry black man and a black brute at the same time when it comes to tropes. But typically, the angry black man trope is being taken through this drapetomania angle. For those of you who don't know what drapetomania is, this was a fraudulent 19th century pseudo-medical diagnosis that was coined in 1851 by Dr. Samuel A. Cartwright. And it was used to describe an alleged mental illness that caused black enslaved individuals to flee captivity. It was a racist pro-slavery theory that was used to pathologize the desire for freedom with proposed cures involving brutal punishment. In other words, the black man behaves the way that they do because they are often telling the truth, or they have some pro-black ideal, and as a result they choose to go against the grain and do something explosive to get their point across or to get their mission fulfilled. And the way they do that is they add drapetomania to the character to make them seem angry. As a result, these black men look like they are mentally ill. They look like they are consumed often by revenge and also anger. Killmonger, Bushmaster, and Gravedigger are perfect examples of how this show.
I'm gonna give another one. Spawn. So when it comes to characters like this, I feel like when you push on a character like Mace Windu, Spawn, some people can end up misinterpreting the writing of just an angry black man, a person who's been through so much struggle. And like, one thing is, you take away all these tropes from a character, it's hard to write. You could always write around and be creative, make your own thing, but like, to take all these tropes away from any character, not just a black character, sometimes can make a difficulty to have a villain, to have like just an adversary, someone just there. It doesn't always have to be a black person, but just when you write these tropes in a story, you could write them right, creative, like make them different from what anybody else has used. I believe like that's probably what the brother mainly like focus his anger on. Most of his things, he probably see a lot of these great characters that don't get a lot of representation, only get categorized by one or a few things. Like, I would hate if someone just sit here and tell me the story of Spawn was just of a black man who's looking for revenge, when really it's so much more, when the writers made sure that Spawn was more than that.
Up. And because they do this, people tend to focus more on the anger than the plight of the character. Dominant society does this also because they don't want to accidentally wake folks up, so they try to misportray our consciousness and our intentions. The fifth black male hatred trope is called the coincidentally asexual black man. I notice a pattern that for some reason there are a lot of black male characters who are either denied a love interest or just don't have a love interest whatsoever, let alone them be a black woman. It's almost to the point where it feels like this is done on purpose. Good examples of this are characters such as Rhodey, Finn from Star Wars, Cyborg from the Justice League, and Teen Titans, although all of his teammates were given love interest. Morpheus from The Matrix, and then my favorite, Sam Wilson. I say he's my favorite not because he's my favorite character, because he isn't, but because unlike most of the other Negroes that I named, this dude was a headliner in 2 media projects and a solo headliner in at least one of those 2. And still, nothing. No love interest. Hell, I thought that they were going to try to put him with that little black assistant to the president, but they couldn't even allow him to get some non-FBA buns. They do this to create the imagery that black men are not sexually desirable. A lot of that is because the men in the dominant society have these insecurities and fears that their queens will be consumed by jungle fever, and they'll start bouncing on every soul pole that they can find. The sixth and final trope is called the black misogynist abuser trope. This one is quite simple in all honesty. They want black men to be seen as misogynists, abusers, and grapists. So they portray.
I'm not gonna lie, this one I have seen mostly in more old school media. I seen it when a lot of people focus mainly on game, prison, or anything that has to do with more of a hood like its exterior. They make men women beaters, they make men rapists, they make men do a lot of things that I feel like it's real. Like, it's portraying a real side of the world, but even though, like I said, I still feel like you could write your characters in a creative way. You don't have to always follow the same tropes that everybody else fall in. And it's sad that I'm starting to see a little bit of this come back, but I don't know. I need to hear his examples of characters that like he could list out.
Us as these evil, low down, dirty individuals who are menaces to the world. And this is something that you see a lot in these Tyler Perry movies like Four Color Girls, Diary of a Mad Black Woman, and I Can Do Bad All by Myself. In all of them, and also in other films that he's produced, black men are shown to be abusers or grapists. It's the same old song and dance. And I'm not saying that we don't have black men in the community.
All right. I want to say this as like my final message because this was his final trope. Don't y'all find it crazy that even a black man writes y'all like writes your race like that? Cause every time I see a Tyler Perry type show, it feels like it's always the same type of trope, and the older generation eats like just eats that shit up, bruh. I don't understand. It's always some guy being his wife. It's always someone getting cheated on. It's always some bullshit that's happening, and a lot of ghetto drama. Shit, I don't understand, but it's crazy that even though like that shit that happened. It's like crazy that that's the only thing that gets portrayed, just the ghetto ness of us. I don't know. I might be tripping. I want to see how y'all feel in the comments. Please like, comment, subscribe. Please check out my music. Check out KD the One. I'll try to put the link in the bio. I'll make sure I have this full video in the bio so y'all can check out this man. And I'll see y'all boys next time. Peace.